Alright everyone, this is Matt here on the Vinyl Head UK channel. I've got another record for you. Now, if you've seen some of my previous videos, you've heard me talk about my good friend Vic. For those that haven't heard the story, when I started collecting vinyl, I put some posts out on my social media. And my friend Vic, who I've been friends with for about 20 odd years now, a long time. He's owner of a drum shop where I started to play drums. An old drum teacher of mine and someone who I've stayed friends with for a long, long time. He saw my post and he had some vinyls for sale. So he sent me up some pictures and said, "Here, Matt, what do you reckon? Do you want to buy these?" There was some Sabbath, there was a Deep Purple record, and I said, yeah, send them my way. So I've covered some of those records that he sent up my way and I got off him. Deep Purple, In Rock, Black Sabbath, Sabotage, Black Sabbath, Never Say Die. And I'm going to round up the last record that he sent up with me. It's another Sabbath record. It's one of those that's a bit hit and miss to some people. It's one that I think people have started to dig a little bit more as time has gone on. But it's definitely an interesting record. I'm going to roll my sleeves up and get stuck into it. So here it is, the record in question. Technical Ecstasy, the 7th studio album by Black Sabbath and the second to last album that they did with the initial sort of Ozzy era lineup before Ozzy departed them. So yeah, Technical Ecstasy. There we have it. As I say, it was the last of the 4 records that got sent up my way by Vic. I've covered the other 3, so I thought it was about time that we, dived in and looked at this record as well. This record was released back in 1976. This is not a first pressing. Just like the other Sabbath records that I have, it is a 2001 reissue that was put out by Sanctuary Records. So it's the same as Sabotage and it's the same as Never Say Die back in 2001. They reissued those as a collection whether it was Vic or somebody else before Vic, obviously got all of those when they came out, or got them as part of the series at least. But they have found their way to me. So, it's in pretty good nick. I was pretty happy. All the records that came my way were in pretty good nick. So I'm happy about that. No tears or damages to the vinyl itself. This one has, if you can see at the top there, a sticker, an old price sticker, which has kind of come off. Some, they're a little bit difficult at times to get off. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that. Maybe one day I'll get something and just try and get it off. I don't want to damage the artwork, the outer sleeve, anything like that on this record. I've spoke about before, one of the appeals to me of getting vinyl was to be able to see this artwork in all its glory. I've spoken before about, on CDs it's quite small, you can't quite always see the detail. Digital, if you're looking at Spotify or Apple, we use a lot of these formats on our phone. It's easy. Do you really look at the artwork when you're on Apple Music? If you're on the go, if you're in the gym, if you're driving, you hook it up, are you really looking at the artwork, or are you just playing the material? I want to look at the artwork. I think it's really important. And for me, who eyesight is slowly declining a little bit, it's there, it's big, I can see it, and it's pretty cool. It's 2 robots, kind of, I don't know what they're doing, but it's 2 kind of robot-y figures. Kind of out there, that artwork. It's better than Sabotage. If you go back to the Sabotage video, I give my thoughts on that artwork. That was, I don't know what was going on that day with those guys, but it's kind of out there. It's kind of Pink Floyd-y, I think. It's kind of the same on the back, nothing too different. We have our track listing, side 1 at the top, side 2 down at the bottom here. But yeah, it's just accentuation of the front there, flipping it over. Inside, it's going to be black vinyl. You know me well enough by now. It's going to be black vinyl. Let's have a little look at what this is. So this is our lyric sheet. It's kind of hard to read. It's not the best lyric sheet in the world. The choice of colour on the font coupled with the artwork there, it makes it quite difficult to actually read. It does have, again, another track listing and all our typical production notes and everything before kicking off down here with our lyrics and then flipping it over onto the other side. Yeah, it's kind of hard on the black with the red, especially like here where it blends in a little bit with that white. Looking at the vinyl itself, as I say, you know me by now, it's black vinyl. It's not going to be anything else. So it kind of goes with the same theme as on the previous 2001 releases. So it's going to have the artwork there on side 1. And then flipping it over onto the second side, we can see the name of the band, album, and track listing right there. A couple of other bits on the side there. It's the same as the other Sanctuary releases, as I say, with the artwork and then all of that jargon over on the other side. They keep that theme going, which is quite cool when you're playing side 1 and you can see your artwork there going around. So let's slide these back inside our sleeve. Do it nice and carefully. Okay, it's not going in. We'll leave that for now. I'll come back to that. So, track listing. Let me tell you what we've got on this record. So, first side, Backstreet Kids, You Won't Change Me, It's Alright, and then Gypsy. Flipping it on to side 2, we have All Moving Parts, bracket, Stand Still, Rock and Roll Doctor, She's Gone, and then closing off, we have Dirty Women, which is a great track. Let me tell you about that one later. This, as I say, was Ozzy era still. It's the second to last Ozzy era album, that initial first run with Ozzy before he departed. We saw the likes of Dio coming in and Tony Martin later on. I think Ian Gillan did one as well before Ozzy came back many years later. So Ozzy on vocals, Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, and Bill Ward on drums. So that kind of classic Black Sabbath lineup. So this one was produced by Tony Iommi. There's quite some interesting stories that come out with this record of the kind of feel of the day of what was going on. So this was actually recorded out in Miami, of all places. The reason Miami was chosen was because it seemed the good place for a lot of bands to be recording. The studio where it was recorded was quite renowned at the time by several bands. Quite well-known bands were recording out there at the time. Plus the lifestyle, you know, they have the money, remove themselves out of the UK, get that sun, get the lifestyle, you know, for a few months or however long it takes to record. But it's kind of, I don't know, this was a working class band. Anybody that knows the history of Sabbath will know they grew up in Aston, over in Birmingham. You know, it was a working class environment. It was dingy, it was dark, it was gloomy. It wasn't the nicest place for them to grow up. You know, they were working class men. And the feel of Aston descended onto their music. Doom and gloom, morbid outlook. You know, it showed in the music that they were creating early on. You know, you go listen to the debut, it has that dark, gloomy sound completely all over it. That is the Black Sabbath sound. Going to Miami where the sun's out, it's warm, you know, everything else involved with that area, it's probably going to have a reflection on the music. It's maybe not going to be quite as doomy and gloomy, and I think that shows on this album. Tony Iommi, as I say, produced it purely because no one else seemed to want to touch him at that time. And I think Tony Iommi grew a little bit thin because he was left to do it all while the other members of the band went off and enjoyed the lavish Miami lifestyle and sunbathed and drank and drugs and, you know, and just left Tony to do all the work there. It was, you know, an interesting time as well for the band. The press, very fickle, I find, found that the band were has-beens, which in this modern era is quite amazing to think that. As I say, this was released in '76. This is 6 years after the first record was put out. And in the span of 6 years, the press have gone from, you know, Black Sabbath, incredible, revolutionary, to has-beens. But at the same time, punk was starting to appear. We had the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Damned, bands like that. They had come in, and that is where the press were focusing. Punk was the in thing at the time, and other bands were starting to appear outside the punk scene. Foreigner, Queen, bands like that. And I think from stories that I've heard and read and whatnot, Tony Iommi was trying to tailor Black Sabbath's sound to sounding more like bands like Foreigner, or maybe more like Queen. They were bringing in different elements that we may not have heard before on previous records. I know that keyboards and synthesizers were starting to appear. That ran over onto Never Say Die as well. So it was an interesting time. The management had kind of moved a little bit away from Sabbath. They were also managing ELO, who seemed to be flavour of the month for the management, which again would probably put Black Sabbath in an awkward position. If you see my video for Never Say Die, you'll know that they got into quite significant conflict with the management, which reflected into lyrics and music on Never Say Die. But this was the start of that. You know, as I say, ELO were getting favoured by the management over Black Sabbath, which, you know, is never a good situation to be in. Ozzy was starting to spiral with the drinks and the drugs. Obviously, we know that Ozzy departed after Never Say Die. But I imagine that a combine of everything, the change in sound, the not being flavour of a month, the ELO thing, it was starting to wear thin by the sounds of it for Ozzy. And again, just reflected into the sound of a record. It wasn't universally praised in the slightest when this came out. Another little interesting fun fact. I know I like to drop my fun facts in for you guys. The Eagles were recording Hotel California in an adjacent room in that studio in Miami. And Sabbath were playing so loud that it was distracting the Eagles from recording Hotel California. It obviously worked out all right because, you know, it's Hotel California. It's a hell of a record. But yeah, little fun fact for you guys. It obviously, as I say, shows that studio was very much in demand. There were several other bands of the time recording there. But yeah, let's go through a little bit and get the gist of this record and what it sounds like. So Backstreet Kids, it's an upbeat, not quite Sabbath style track to kick off. It's not the worst opening track I've ever heard, but it's definitely got more of an upbeat feel, which is, you know, a little bit away from Sabbath as we know it. You Won't Change Me is the second track, and it's got its typical Sabbath heavy riff to start with, but for me, I don't think it really goes anywhere. The track doesn't progress all that much after what seems like a promising start. It didn't really go anywhere. It's alright. So this was Bill Ward. Bill Ward did vocals on a Never Say Die track, the last track on that. But this is Bill Ward doing vocals on this record, and it kind of has the feel of the Beatles a little bit. It wouldn't be probably out of place like a lesser track of the Beatles, maybe. Again, it doesn't really, I feel, go anywhere. You know, we hear the keys in it as well. That's just me. Gypsy, nice little drum beat, carrying on talking about Bill Ward. And then a nice riff from Iommi. Geezer follows that on the bass. It's quite heavy. It's still not Sabbath as we know it, I would say. I don't think anything really on this is Sabbath as we know it, maybe bar the last track. Flipping it over, you know, I'd sort of say All Moving Parts and Rock and Roll Doctor are kind of middle of the road, kind of average rock tracks, not even really metal. She's Gone. We have the orchestration in there. It is a ballad, I guess we could say. It's quite personal lyrics from Ozzy. A little bit cheesy maybe, but quite personal. But then the crowning moment, the track that saves it for me is Dirty Women. It's got some great riffs, especially when it goes into that Dirty Women passage towards the end. It builds up towards the end. Bill Ward brings in the double pedal, and it just saves this record. It's a track that they still, obviously we know that they aren't going anymore, Sabbath, but it's a track that they kept in the live set even at the end, and rightfully so. It is definitely the standout track for me, and I'm sure many other people would agree on this record. So, as I say, I always stress that I don't really just want to review the record, because you can go anywhere and see reviews of these. Some of these classic albums that I've featured, you can find 1,000,001 reviews. I just want to give a little snippet of what I think of it. But let's talk about the sound of this very record itself. It sounds good. It came in good condition, as I say. It was looked after by previous owners. I don't know if it stayed with my friend or if he got it from others beforehand. But it's in good nick. The sleeves are in good nick. The vinyl itself, there's a little background noise, but that's understandable if it's been through other owners. It just needs a real good deep clean on that. There was one little jump on one of the tracks. That might just be needing a little bit more of a thorough clean on that, but it sounded good. These Sanctuary 2001 reissues do sound quite good. I don't think probably as good as maybe the first pressings would sound. They definitely don't sound as good as my Black Sabbath self-titled sounding. That sounds immense. Go and check that video out to hear me lose my mind talking about how good that sounds. But they are solid. Nice volume. It's clear. The soundstage is relatively good. The dynamics are relatively good. As I say, not a patch on that. I'm sure there's probably better pressings out there. You just need to do a little bit of research and go out and find them. But considering these came to me in bulk at a good price, I wasn't going to say no. It was a good chance for me to slowly start to build up my collection a little bit, especially when I first began. I wouldn't say my collection is big at all, nowhere near. It's still very, very small, but it was good to enhance and just build it up a little bit. But, you know, this record, as I say at the time, meh. To some people still today, meh. To some people that have changed their opinion, it's a bit some people a bit but it's not. I said it with Never Say Die. If you took Black Sabbath away and ignored the fact that it was a Black Sabbath or is a Black Sabbath record, it's probably not a bad rock record. Maybe not so much on the metal side, but it's a good rock record. But the fact that it is Black Sabbath, you know, it doesn't have any legs compared to what they've put out previously. You know, if we look at Black Sabbath, if we look at Paranoid, Volume 4, Master of Realities, Sabotage, it doesn't compare to those records. And I don't think Sabbath put out a great record again until Dio came in and we had likes of Heaven and Hell. But For a standalone record, it sounds good. It's one for you Sabbath fans. I'm sure many of you have got it. If you're looking to complete your Sabbath collection, then yeah, you're not going to be too disappointed, I don't think. There are still some good tracks. You know, look at Gypsy, Dirty Women. I don't think Backstreet Kids is a bad track either. But there we have it. Technical Ecstasy by Black Sabbath, the 7th studio album. Go ahead and check it out. Thank you again for tuning in. Go and subscribe. There's been a few new subscribers that have come in. Thank you to those guys. I really appreciate your support. Continue subscribing. If you watch this and you like what you see, go and subscribe. Go and smash like. Go and hit the bell for all notifications. Also, don't forget there is an Instagram page as well. Also, newly created, I now have a Twitter page solely for Vinyl Head UK. The links are on the YouTube channel, so go and give those a follow if you're on Instagram or Twitter, or both. Don't stop at one. But I will be back with more vinyl content, plus many other things. Don't forget, go and buy vinyl, go and listen to vinyl. This is Black Sabbath. They created heavy metal. They're better than your band. I'll see you guys soon.